is 5 p.m. and we're at the Canyon Community Center for the December 3rd meeting of the Springdale Planning Commission. From the town, we have Robin Romero, Tom Dancy, Niall Connolly, and Kendall Sagers. On the dais with us, we have Matt Fink, Zion National Park Rep, Melissa Laborde, Jennifer McCullough, myself, Tom Keniston, Paul Zimmerman, and Kash Bate. Not sure what happened there. Because Terry and Rich Swanson are out, I'd like to ask Melissa and Kash if you would vote in tonight's proceedings. Okay, thank you. Could I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I move we approve tonight's agenda.
All right, motion by Jennifer, second by Melissa. All in favor?
Melissa, aye. Jennifer, aye.
Tom, aye.
Paul, aye.
Kash, aye.
Thank you. Does the town have any general announcements? Okay, thank you. All right. Does anyone have any conflicts, potential conflicts they'd like to disclose with tonight's agenda item? It doesn't look like we have any. Okay, we have 4 action items tonight. 3 of these are public hearings. The first public hearing is a review to amend Chapter 10-18 to add a requirement for enhanced buffering and screening on commercial properties when adjacent to residential uses. And Tom, I believe this is your item, if you have an introduction.
It is, thank you. As you mentioned, this is an ordinance revision dealing with enhanced buffering for commercial developments that are adjacent to residential properties. The Planning Commission has been working on this in work meetings for the past several months. And the basic idea is that as a condition of design development review approval, when a commercial development comes before you, there will now be an additional enhanced requirement for that commercial property to provide more detailed and extensive and enhanced buffering or to mitigate the potential negative impacts of that commercial use on adjacent residential properties. So this would only come into play on commercial properties that are immediately adjacent to residential properties. In that situation, the property, again, as a condition of approval of the DDR, would be required to provide enhanced screening and buffering. And there are 3 different options, 3 different proposed options that the commercial property owner could choose from: a narrower option with more fencing and trees, a kind of middle option that has a berm and fence and landscape, and then a wide option, which is just landscape with no fence or anything else, just more width and vegetation and landscape to act as the buffer. A property owner could choose which one of those 3 to put on the property, but in making that selection, they would be required to consult with the owner of the adjacent residential property. So that's basically what this ordinance does. The Commission has reviewed the details of this again in several previous work meetings. And you did receive 1 public comment letter that came in a little bit late this afternoon. So I just want to make sure that everybody saw the comment letter from Craig Hale about this item. Okay, that's all I've got.
Does anyone have questions for Tom before we move on?
I do. In reference to that letter that came in, I was wondering if that would even apply because it references not building commercial. So there wouldn't be commercial adjacent to residential in that situation anyways, right?
Yeah, so the concern is that in our commercial zones are really more accurately mixed use zones because they allow both commercial and residential uses. And so the concern if we as a commercial property owner choose to develop that property with a residential use, is there a need to buffer 2 residential uses from each other? So for example, in the village commercial zone, you could develop multifamily housing, or for that matter, single family housing. Would there be a need to to put one of these buffers up if you're developing residential in the commercial zone adjacent to other residential properties. The way the ordinance is currently written, it talks about development on commercial zones. So it doesn't differentiate between the use that's proposed. It just says anytime you develop in a commercial zone, the buffer is required. So I think the request is to make that a little more nuanced, to say, well, no, only when you're developing a commercial use in a commercial zone is the buffer required.
So, okay. So that doesn't answer my question. The way, like our notes or readings say commercial properties adjacent to residential properties. So would that mean we would potentially, if we wanted to change that, discuss that wording instead of zones?
If you wanted to respond to that public comment letter, and if that was something, a change you were interested in making, then yes. Here in this introductory language, it says a landscape buffer is required on all boundaries of a property in the CC or VC zone adjacent to any property in the FR or VR zone. And again, it just talks about zones. It doesn't talk about
Right.
uses.
Right.
So that property, and then there's some other mentions down here about when they're required. You would want to change that to say, well, no, we're only concerned about commercial uses adjacent to residential zones.
I think we might want, if we were going to do that, I think we might want to, I mean, the way that's worded, you've got to have a buffer yard on all boundaries, whether there's a neighboring property that's residential use. I think we might want to make it more explicit and say all boundaries that adjoin a residential use.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think it does try to be more explicit later on in this
Does that, yeah, A2.
A2 tries to make that more explicit, but if we can make it even more clear, then certainly we can adjust the language accordingly as well.
I was curious where Pod 3 is.
So Craig Hale represents the owners of the property, like the Hampton Inn, the Hyatt, the Spring Hill Suites. They also own the 6 acres, 5.5, 6 acres that are undeveloped at the very end of Big Springs Road. That's what they refer to as Pod 3.
Any more questions for Tom? Excuse me. Now's the time for questions from the public. If Ryan doesn't have any questions, we can go into public hearing. Could I get a motion to go into public hearing?
I move we go into public hearing.
Second?
Motion by Jennifer, second by Paul. All in favor?
Jennifer, I.
Tom, aye.
All aye.
Hush, aye.
All right, motion passes. Now's the time for public hearing. All right, not seeing anyone, could we get a motion to close public hearing?
Move we close the public hearing?
I second.
Excuse me. Motion by Paul, second by Jennifer. All in favor?
Jennifer, I.
Tom, aye.
All aye.
Hush, aye.
We're now moving into planning commission deliberation. Does anyone want to start discussion?
Yeah, I can start. The current plan we have with the 3 different options seems like a good one. There was one other thing, and I guess it's something we could discuss, or this could have been a question for Tom. I'm just always reminded when we're dealing with boundaries and setbacks and stuff of what the considerations of the House Bill 48 defensible spaces, and any of these instances where we're requiring like trees and stuff, would that be impacted by this, or do we need to take that into consideration even at this time?
think Tom probably knows this better, but I think the recommended plantings that could be put in, and they wouldn't recommend a juniper, I know that.
Okay.
But Tom, is that true that we'd need to use planting from the town list?
Yeah, that's correct. And so certainly plant selection could resolve that concern. The other 2 points to note are that, one, trees are allowed in the defensible space. They just need to be maintained things in such a way that they are.
Okay,
And the other is that, based on the latest information we've received from Chief Decker at the Hurricane Valley Fire Protection District, it's likely that the majority of the commercial zones probably will not be in the wildland.
right. Okay,
That wouldn't be necessarily applicable to them anyway.
That's true, thank you. Overall, I think this is a good addition to the ordinance that we have in town to protect the residential areas from the effects of commercial development. So I don't see any issues with it. I don't know if anyone else has any.
I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the language of adjacent to residential properties instead of just referring to the zone. Does anybody else think that?
Say that again?
So when it ends up being two residential properties in a commercial zone,
Yeah,
the way it reads now is it is required,
right. I don't feel that it needs to be.
specified, like it's still required?
I guess I take I sort of agree with the letter in that, you know, if
Yeah.
it's a residential use, it's a commercial property, but it's under residential use, then there isn't necessarily a need for the buffer zone. But when it goes to a commercial use, then they would need to put the buffer zone in.
Yeah.
And I think that the buffer zone should only be buffering areas where there's a residence next door. So, you know, if on the side there's a residential use, but behind there's nothing there,
Right.
what's the point of having a buffer zone?
So,
So we can, and, you know, Tom pointed out that A2, I think covers that. It, you know, it says they'll be located on the outer perimeter of property where the property is adjacent to a property in the FR or VR zone. Maybe we should say the property line is adjacent to, or that property line would exclude the ones where there's no residential property be next to it. But we could also add in there, landscape buffer yard shall be located on the outer perimeter of a property under a commercial use where the property line is adjacent to a property in the FR or VR zone.
I guess my concern in reading this public comment from Craig Hale is that we could have a development, housing related, which could be nightly rental.
That's true too, and so we could, I'm less comfortable not having a buffer if it's a nightly rental, if it's commercial nightly rental place. So in that case, I think the buffer zone would be good. So,
I think if it's long-term residential, it's okay, even if
yeah,
it's a
okay,
rental.
right,
Like a long-term could be, 90 days, so it's
yeah.
would not be a problem. But if there's, rented out to 6 or 8 people and there's a lot of activity from
So-
commercial use.
So if it was a commercial, so if it's a property with a commercial use, including nightly rentals or short-term rentals,
Yeah.
then
so are you saying to keep it in as is or still changing the language?
change it.
Okay, on A2?
On what?
On A2, which you just.
Yeah, what I suggest is we take A2 and say, landscape buffer yard shall be located on the outer perimeter of a property under a commercial use, including short-term rentals, where that property line is adjacent to the property in the FR/VR zone or whatever else. So it only puts a requirement on a commercial property that's under a commercial use, including short-term rentals, and on the property lines that are adjacent to residential use.
I mean, I think this is the right place for the language. Another thought was we could change the transient lodging overlay logic to require buffering, but I think this is the best location for it.
That's an easy place to put it.
Melissa, do you have anything, or Jennifer, any more?
I agree with the change of the language for A2. What Paul was stating.
Any more discussion, or are we ready for a motion?
I would be happy to do the motion. I just would like a little more clarity on this language. I followed you for the most part, but I think if we could just walk through it one more time to get it right. So landscape buffer yards shall be on the outer perimeter of the property on the FR zone. So that stays, right? VR zone or any overlay zone with a primary residential use. And then this is where it changes after that. Landscape buffer yards shall extend.
What I do. So what I did was I put in these words right there, and then added the word line right there.
Okay. With a commercial use included,
Including short-term rentals.
okay, so the property
Line is adjacent to.
with a commercial use including short-term rentals is adjacent to the property.
Yeah, so
Okay.
if you read through this. Looking on the outer perimeter of a property with a commercial use, including short-term rentals, where the property line, put where in right here.
Okay,
The property line is adjacent to the property in the FR zone.
okay, yeah. Okay. Anything else?
I don't think.
I didn't
there's
see
anything
any.
else. One thing we could do is that we could do a motion, get a second, and then go back and discuss, and Paul could help.
Okay,
with the
I'll give it
language on that.
I'll give it a go, and then if we
Yeah,
need to
okay.
refine it, we can do that, okay. The Planning Commission recommends approval of the proposed ordinance revision to add buffer yard requirements for new commercial development adjacent to residential properties as discussed in the Commission's December 3rd, 2025 meeting. The motion is based on the following findings. The ordinance revision fulfills land use and town appearance subgoal F1 of the general plan for the Planning Commission develop enhance screening and buffering standards for new commercial development adjacent to residential uses with the following condition. On item number A2, language is to read, landscape buffer yards shall be located on the outer perimeter of a property with a commercial use when the property line is adjacent to a property in the foothill reservation, FR zone, VR zone, or an overlay with a commercial use including short-term rentals, or an overlay zone with a primarily residential use. And then landscape buffer yard shall extend to the property of the boundary.
Okay, well done. Could I get a second?
Second.
All right,
Oh, whatever.
I think Paul beat you. Just by a millisecond. Okay, now, is there any additional discussion or proposed changes? All right, I think we're good. All in favor?
Melissa, aye.
Jennifer, aye?
Tom, aye?
All aye.
Kash, aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Okay, this next public hearing is a zone change from Valley Residential to public use on parcel S-137C, a 2-acre parcel adjacent to Town Hall. And Tom, I believe this is yours as well.
It is, thank you. This is a requested zone change on the parcel that you mentioned, Tom, S-137C. This is a 2-acre parcel that the town purchased recently with the intent of developing public uses, specifically including a medical clinic. And the town's intent is to develop this parcel kind of as an extension of the existing municipal campus that houses the town hall, the community center, the town park, and to provide additional space for some of those public uses and other public uses to be developed to serve the community. The property is currently in the Valley Residential Zone. It's the town's practice to place property that it owns in the public use zone, and that, again, allows for the development of these public uses to serve the community. So the commission tonight should consider whether or not this 2-acre piece of property meets the requirements for a zone change to the public use zone. In the town code, the code establishes the criteria for changing zones. And 3 criteria, any one of which needs to be met in order for the town to, or for a zone change to be justified. And those 3 criteria are, first, that the zone change will promote the goals and objectives of the general plan or the town's land use ordinance. The second criterion is that the zone change will accommodate substantial changes in conditions. And the third criterion is that the zone change will correct some kind of manifest error. So the zone change doesn't need to meet all 3 of those criteria, it just needs to meet one of them. So again, your job tonight is to determine, will placing this 2-acre piece of property in the public use zone achieve one of those 3 criteria? Now, again, it's the town's intent to develop this parcel with public uses, specifically including a medical clinic. And so that's the kind of the immediate proposed development. However, the commission should consider the public use zone in general, independent of the medical clinic itself. Is this property a good fit for the public use zone? The commission has received 2 public comment letters on this property, and just want to make sure that you had a chance to review those as well. Any questions?
It looks like there are no questions for you. So any questions from the public? Ryan? No? All right.
I failed to mention, Ryan is here to represent the town as the applicant in the zone change.
Oh, I see. Okay. Would he like to make a presentation of any kind or just available for questions? All right. Looks like there's no questions for Tom or Ryan. So could I get a motion to go into public hearing?
I move we go into public hearing.
Second?
I think Melissa beat you that time. Yeah. Motion by Jennifer, second by Melissa. All in favor?
Aye.
Jennifer, aye.
Tom, aye.
All aye.
Shy.
Now it's time for public comment. I'm not seeing any comments, so can I get a motion to close public hearing?
I move we close public hearing.
Second?
Motion by Jennifer, second by Paul. All in favor?
Melissa, aye.
Jennifer, aye.
Tom, aye.
All aye.
Shy.
Okay, now we're in Planning Commission deliberation.
I guess we can start with the location as being a suitable location for public use. And then as staff notes read, and specifically including a medical clinic. And I would say I believe it's a suitable spot for it. It was nicely laid out in the application as being basically a continuation of other town services, which to me makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially considering other properties that have been looked at in the past.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good location for something that's public benefit, like a medical center or, a pharmacy. Something that's not, I think, not a strictly commercial, but something to provide services to the residents and others in need through the medical center. So,
And then if we wanted to touch on the next two questions about the impacts of traffic, increased traffic potentially due to the development and the transportation network, I don't see any reason that the transportation wouldn't work in that area.
right. And during the busy season, I mean, there's tremendous amount of traffic. It's going to be a negligible change in traffic, in my opinion.
And then also, as far as the impacts go, I believe that the existing town structures here fit in nicely with the area. The impacts are very minimal from everything that's in the plan. And then through the design and the examples given, it looks like it would pretty much blend right in with everything else that's happening here currently, and mentioning the architecture and being in alignment with the town character.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. Even the neighbors in Stone Mountain condominiums, I don't think would be unduly impacted by the light commercial activity that we're considering there.
Yeah. So to me, then, what it really comes down to is if it meets the requirements of a zone change. And I clearly see myself as it meets two, so not even just one. But in either case, whether the zone change accommodating substantial changes in conditions or promoting goals and objectives of the general plan by promoting community health and wellness, I think that it's appropriate for a zone change.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think it qualifies on at least two counts. One being the substantial changes in the situation, given the fairly recent change in visitation and the need for that type of facility to accommodate visitors to the park. So with 5 million visitors a year and having to drive to St. George to get care is probably not the best solution for our tourists.
And I guess I understand the concern regarding, technically it's not being used as mixed use, but it is a substantial benefit to the community. Yeah. And not out of character with the neighborhood, given that the town offices are right next door.
Yep.
So are we ready for a motion?
Everybody ready? Yep. Let's see. As discussed in the December 3rd, 2025 meeting, the Planning Commission recommends approval of the proposed zone change from Valley Residential to public use on parcel S-137C, located immediately to the east of the Town Hall property. This motion is based on the following findings. In accordance with Section 1032A of the Town Code, the requested zone change meets not only one necessary requirement, but meets two requirements for a zone change. One, the zone change will accommodate substantial changes in conditions due to growing community of residents, businesses, and visitors, providing needed services as a result. To promote the goals and objectives of the general plan by promoting community health and wellness and facilitating first-class medical facilities and care.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, second by Paul. Is there any further discussion or proposed changes? Yes. All right, all in favor?
Melissa, aye.
Jennifer, I.
Tom, aye?
Paul, aye.
Hush, aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. All right, this third public hearing is to consider an amendment to 10-7A of the Town Code to add medical offices, drugstores, pharmacies, and medical clinics to permitted uses in the public use zone. And Tom, I believe this is your agenda item as well.
Thank you. The town code contains a definition of medical clinic, medical or dental clinic, but that specific use is not identified anywhere on the permitted uses chart in section 10.7A2 of the town code. That's the section of the town code that establishes permitted accessory and prohibited uses. So although we define medical clinic or dental clinic, we don't specifically allow it in any zone. There has been a medical clinic operating in the public use zone on the town hall property for over 40 years. And that has provided service to the community and a benefit to the community, but it's never been officially sanctioned by the zoning ordinance. So it operates as a legal non-conforming use. So what this proposed ordinance change would do would specifically allow medical clinics as permitted uses, and they would be permitted uses in the central commercial, village commercial, and public use zones. So while we define the use, now we would also be placing it in a zone, in fact in 3 zones, CC, VC, and PU. So the main issue for the commission to consider is, do we want to specifically allow medical clinics in the town? And if so, are the central commercial, village commercial, and central commercial, village commercial, and public use zones appropriate zones for that use of medical clinic? There is an associated change having to do with drugstores and pharmacies. The definition of a medical clinic includes a pharmacy. However, currently in the public use zone, the table in 10.7A2 prohibits pharmacies in the public use zone. So if the commission were to make a change that would allow medical clinics in the public use zone, there would be a conflict between that allowed use and pharmacies being a prohibited use. So an associated change would be to specifically allow pharmacies and drugstores as permitted uses in the public use zone. That would clarify that inconsistency that could be created. So that's another change that this proposed ordinance would make. You have received one comment letter on this item tonight, and just wanted to make sure that the commission had a chance to review that. Any questions from the commission?
Just clarification of that. So by definition, it states that pharmacies are included in medical clinics, so it doesn't need to be specified separately. Is that correct?
Well, yes and no. So if you look at the definition of medical clinic is right here. A building in which a group of dentists, physicians, and allied professional assistants are associated for the conduct of their profession. The clinic may include dental and/or medical laboratory and pharmacy. It shall not include inpatient care or operating rooms. So that's the definition of clinic. So if we say, yeah, you can have that in the public use zone, we're essentially saying, yeah, pharmacies as a component of a medical clinic are okay in the public use zone. However, if you go down to the table in 10.7A32, under drugstores and pharmacies, currently this is the public use zone column, this far right column. Currently there's an N there, which means not permitted. So this line of the table would be saying, no, you can't have a pharmacy in public use. But this line, clinic, dental, or medical, would be saying, Yeah, you can have a pharmacy in public use as a part of a clinic. So this change is just to remove that inconsistency.
I'm a little confused by this, because everything's underlined on the first line up there. Did it change somehow, or is that a new line added?
That's a new line added
Okay.
because we don't currently allow
Got it.
medical or dental clinics anywhere.
Got it, okay,
Though we define it in the code, it's currently not found in the table.
all right. Now, the other question I have with respect to your table is, in the left-hand column, there's a line that usually indicates a change, and most of the upper part of the table's got a line next to it. Did it get reformatted or something? Is that why it's there, or?
Yeah, and I apologize. I probably should have just accepted those changes.
Okay. There's no change, no other changes made up there.
There's no change to
I
the
didn't think-
content. It's just some kind of weird formatting change that happened when I downloaded the document.
So my concerns on this are, I think I think we ought to do what is being proposed with one possible exception. I think for the town to put in a clinic on a public, go ahead. Am I not supposed to talk now?
Well, you might want to have your public hearing and then do your deliberation.
We're still in public hearing?
Well, we're not even in public hearing. We're not even there yet,
Yeah.
so.
We got away from ourselves here. Yeah, okay, my bad. So any more questions for Tom? Okay. Any questions from the public? Ryan? Nope. All right, could I get a motion to go into public hearing?
I move we go into public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Jennifer, second by Paul. All in favor?
Melissa, I.
Jennifer, I.
Tom, aye.
All aye.
Josh, I.
Now it's the public comment period. Looks like we don't have any comments, so if I could get a motion to close, thank you. Can I get a second?
A second.
Motion by Paul, second by Jennifer. All in favor?
Melissa, I.
Jennifer, I.
Tom, aye.
All aye.
Josh, I.
Now,
Now,
we can go into deliberation.
let me continue, if I can remember what I said that far back. The concern I have is that I think it's appropriate to have a clinic there and to allow it to be used on public use property. I think it's also appropriate that we have an in-house pharmacy associated with that clinic, but I don't necessarily think that we want to have a pharmacy popping up on another public use zone that's unassociated with a specific, town-sponsored clinic, if you will. So if we can articulate that in some fashion on here, that would be beneficial, I think.
Would we want to continue to tie drugstores and pharmacies and make them like ancillary to the medical clinic?
That, we could do that, that's what we could do. So change drugstores and pharmacies as being ancillary to the, whatever the.
Clinics,
sponsor.
dental and medical. So they could be allowed, but they're just as a part of the medical center?
Yeah, right.
And I guess the one letter, she may have been concerned with their opening like a Walgreens on
Yeah.
the public use zone, standalone Walgreens. I don't think that was ever the
I don't think
intention.
that was the intent, I don't think we should allow that either.
Right, I agree, yeah.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Would that change be for drugstore, because currently we allow drugstores in the VC and CC zones. Would that change be for all drugstores and pharmacies, or just for drugstores and pharmacies in the public use zone?
Just the public use zone, I think.
I think so.
So we probably have to add another line to the table.
Yeah, so what I would suggest is we have we keep drugstores and pharmacies as is, as a non-permitted use in public use, and
Yeah.
add another line that says pharmacies in conjunction with medical clinic, and have that as a permitted use in the public use zone.
Yeah, I agree. Does everyone think that's a good way to go?
I do.
The other alternative you have is you could put where it says clinics, dental, or medical, you could put commas, drugstores and pharmacies, and leave that line the way it's drafted, and then the one down below just say drugstores and pharmacies associated with the town clinic. Either way, I don't care.
Would that allow drugstores and pharmacies to be in the commercial zones.
No, never mind, don't do that because that makes it different. Just add another line. Yeah,
I think that's the cleanest, is just to, again, leave the current drugstores and pharmacies line as is, allowed in village commercial and central commercial, not allowed in public use. Add another line that says pharmacies in conjunction with medical clinic as a permitted use.
I agree. Any other items to discuss on this?
Are we in discussion still?
Yeah, I think we're in deliberation.
Okay, so just as far as the ordinance revision, we don't really need to detail out the changes in the chart, right? Just as long as we're saying ancillary, pharmacies and drugstores are ancillary to a medical clinic and public use zones is what we're saying, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Are we ready for a motion?
I am if she's going to make it.
The Planning Commission recommends approval of the proposed ordinance revision to allow dental and medical clinics and pharmacy and drugstores that are ancillary to a medical clinic in the public use zone as discussed in the Commission's December 3rd, 2025 meeting. This motion is based on the following findings. The purpose of the PU zone is listed in Section 10-12(1) of the Town Code. The public use zone is established to provide for the location and establishment of public and quasi-public facilities. Section 10-22 of the code defines quasi-public use as a use operated by a private nonprofit educational, religious, recreational, charitable, philanthropic institution, such as having the purpose or primarily of serving the general public. Medical clinics provide a service to the general public as private nonprofit organizations providing services to the general public. Medical clinics fit the purpose of public uses, therefore are appropriate to be included in public use zones. The revision supports the directive of the general plan vision statement, amenities and services, public health general goal, public health subgoal goal A, public health subgoal A, 1C. And the definition of clinic, dental, or medical includes pharmacies. In this case, the change will include pharmacies that are associated with a medical clinic.
All right, could we get a second?
Second.
Motion by Jennifer, second by Paul. Is there any additional discussion or proposed changes? All right, not seeing any. All in favor?
Alyssa, aye.
Jennifer, I.
Tom, aye.
Paul, aye.
Hush, aye.
All right, the motion passes. All right, this final item is a discussion and possible recommendation for the appointment of Planning Commission Chair and Vice Chair for 2026. I'd like to just quickly say that there's a lot of good choices on the Planning Commission now for both of these positions. I've been doing chair for 2 years. I'm going to opt out on chair and vice chair. I discovered some time ago that the chair position is not one of prestige, but it's about preparation, facilitation, and communication. In the last year, in my opinion, Jennifer has taken a lead role in our agenda item discussions and also in handling most of our motions for our group. I talked with Terry Kruschke yesterday, and he expressed interest in potentially staying on as vice chair, but he's not interested in the chair position at this time. I think he'd be a good one in the future, as would Paul. Terry also believes that Jennifer would be a good choice for chair. That said, I believe there's a lot of depth and knowledge on the Planning Commission now. What discussion do we want to have?
I have a recommendation for Jennifer as chair.
Do we want to go straight to recommendations or any discussion, comment? Okay, you want to recommend Jennifer? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Melissa, second by Paul. All in favor?
Melissa, aye.
Jennifer, I.
Tom, aye.
Paul, aye.
Kosh, aye.
I believe we've passed a motion to put forward Jennifer's name for consideration to town council for the position of chair of the planning commission. And in terms of the vice chair, does anyone have a recommendation or any discussion about that position?
I recommend Terry.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion? We want to go right to,
I was just wondering, how is his health currently? Is he doing okay? Like, I haven't seen him in a while.
that's a good question and valid in this case. I did talk to him most recently yesterday. He's 2 months from his injury, and the doctors told him two months ago that he'd have a recovery period of about 3 months before he could get to the point where he could not wear the brace any longer. He's now, he wears the brace some, but 3 months he should be able to get rid of the brace. At that point, he'll be mostly better, but for a full recovery, it'll be more like 6 months. In 6 months, he will be, I think it will be a longer term, but in 6 months, he'll be clinically healed or whatever from his injury.
And at what point will he be able to join us? Would that be in 6 months?
Planning on
or
coming back the first meeting next month.
next month? Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions or discussion? All right, all in favor?
Melissa, aye.
Jennifer, I.
Tom, aye.
Paul, aye.
Kosh, aye.
All right, thank you. Terry for vice chair. All right. I believe that's it for tonight's agenda. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
I move.
I second.
Motion by Paul, second by Melissa. All in favor?
Melissa, aye.
Jennifer, I.
Tom, aye.
Paul, aye.
Kosh, aye.